All right, let's jump right into it. Today we're going back to 1191 CE,
Ah, yes,
a
1191.
pivotal year in Indian history, and we're focusing on the First Battle of Tarain,
The first of, well, several.
a clash of two really powerful figures that would decide the fate of, well, a big chunk of India. We're going to be looking at sources that kind of give us different angles on this. Some are really detailed and some, well, not so much. But they all agree that this battle, this First Battle of Tarain, was a major turning point.
That it was. It's fascinating because it wasn't just a random, territorial dispute. We're talking about two expanding empires, each with their own, their own goals and ways of doing things.
Yeah, like on the one hand, you have this guy, Muhammad of Ghor,
Oh, he's a key player here. Already a powerful ruler.
based in Ghazni, right?
That's right, Ghazni. And he's looking east towards India. And, well, let's just say he's got big plans.
Ambitious, right?
Very much so.
And then on the other side, we have Prithviraj Chauhan,
Leading the Chauhan dynasty.
holding a good chunk of northern India at this point.
A formidable force in his own right.
But to really get why they end up clashing at Tarain, we need to kind of like zoom out, look at the bigger picture of India at the time.
Absolutely, because this wasn't a unified India we're talking about, not at all. It was more like a patchwork of different kingdoms, mostly ruled by these Rajput chiefs, each with their own, their own ambitions and rivalries.
So the very divided landscape. Right?
Very divided. Now, imagine you're Muhammad of Ghor. Things back home in Central Asia, they're not exactly peaceful, and you're looking to, well, maybe expand your power a bit, gain some territory. India, with all its divisions, starts to look pretty attractive, strategically speaking.
Right, like a prime target.
A prime target, ripe for the picking, you might say. And Prithviraj Chauhan, well, he's right there, right on the frontier. Between Ghor's ambitions and, the richer parts of India, his kingdom included this very strategic city, Bathinda. And guess what?
It becomes kind of like the trigger point,
You could say that.
the flash point. Yeah. So Bathinda wasn't just any city.
Oh, no, it was key.
It controlled trade routes.
Yeah.
Access to the more prosperous regions further into India.
It was a gateway. And for someone like Ghor, who was, all about expanding his empire, well, it was a prime target. It had to be taken.
So Ghor makes his move, attacks Bathinda.
In 1191, yes. A bold move. He's basically saying to Prithviraj, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, not messing around.
No, not at all.
And Prithviraj, he doesn't just sit back. He was known for being pretty decisive and, a skilled military leader.
Mm-hmm.
The sources really paint this picture of him as a warrior king, defending his territory, that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. The classic warrior king archetype.
He gathers his forces, and this includes a key ally, Govindaraj.
Another powerful ruler swore allegiance to Prithviraj. Crucial in bolstering the Rajput army.
Yeah.
Gave them a real edge.
And that brings us to, well, the whole reason we're doing this deep dive, the First Battle of Tarain. What's interesting is, despite the Rajput victory,
Oh, clear victory, yes.
there are these conflicting details about what happened to Muhammad of Ghor himself.
Right, so some of the sources describe him as being wounded, even knocked off his horse, which, shows just how fierce the Rajput attack was.
Yeah.
Some even claim he was captured, taken prisoner.
Wow.
Now, whether he was actually captured and then later released, or if that's a little bit of, historical embellishment, well, that's still debated. Historians love a good mystery.
A little drama.
Exactly. But capture or not, what all the sources agree on is the outcome. Ghori, defeated, retreats back to Ghazni. And Prithviraj, it's a huge win. I mean, not only did he defend his territory, but he kind of solidified his reputation as this, powerful leader.
Right.
Especially among the other Rajputs, it's like he becomes the champion, right? The defender against this outside threat, a David and Goliath kind of situation. You have Prithviraj leading this confederation of Rajput forces, and they repel the invasion of this, well, established empire. You can imagine that would have sent shockwaves, through northern India and beyond.
Yeah.
But, and this is where things get really interesting, there's this question, this big question that kind of hangs over this victory. Did Prithviraj make a mistake by letting Ghori retreat?
Oh, yeah. Like, was that his fatal flaw?
Well, some might say so. If he was captured, did he make a mistake by letting him go? Was this act of, let's say, mercy, a miscalculation? Because, spoiler alert, we haven't seen the last of Muhammad of Ghor.
He'll be back.
Oh, he'll be back. He's not the type to just accept defeat and, walk away.
Yeah.
So this is the aftermath of the First Battle of Tarain. On the surface, a decisive victory for Prithviraj. But as we'll see, it also kind of planted the seeds for a rematch. And that rematch, well, it would have much higher stakes. and some really long-lasting consequences for the future of India. I think what's really important to understand here is this first clash at Tarain. It wasn't just about, who could grab the most land.
It was deeper than that.
It was way deeper. It shows this fundamental difference in how these two powers, approached warfare. For the Rajputs, it was about honor, defending their land, very much a matter of principle. But Ghori, he was playing a longer game.
So it's like Prithviraj was fighting for his home, and Ghori was thinking about building this massive empire.
Yeah. It's a real clash of perspectives, isn't it?
It is.
And you see it reflected in how they act. The sources show Prithviraj as this bold leader, quick to respond, to the threat to Bathinda. He rallies his allies. He relies on the system of, Rajput alliances that had been around for centuries.
Right. And speaking of allies, we've got to mention Govindaraj again. I mean, Prithviraj wasn't alone in this.
Oh, no, not at all.
He had this network of support. It really says a lot about his leadership.
It does. It shows he had the respect and the trust of other Rajput leaders. Govindaraj, his contribution to the army can't be overstated. His forces really added some much-needed muscle to Prithviraj's ranks. This wasn't just one guy leading the charge. It was a coordinated effort,
But Rui,
a real coalition.
So, picture it. Two huge armies clashing on the plains of Tarain, the Rajput forces all fierce and determined, defending their homeland. And then you have Ghori's troops, who were probably more disciplined,
Yeah.
maybe even more heavily armored. Must have been an incredible sight. Do the sources say anything about, the actual fighting?
Well, the sources we have are more focused on the big picture, the clash of empires, the heroic leaders. They don't really get into the nitty-gritty of battle tactics.
Ah, too bad.
I know, but, we can kind of piece some things together. The Rajput forces, they probably relied on these fast cavalry charges, using their speed and knowledge of the terrain to their advantage.
And wouldn't their horses have been a big advantage? Especially on open ground like Tarain. I can almost see it. Rajput warriors, skilled horsemen, raining down arrows, disrupting Ghori's formations, chaos everywhere.
Exactly. Their mobility, that would have been key, especially against an opponent who was, weighed down by heavy armor. Ghori's forces, they might have been better equipped in some ways, but they might have struggled to keep up with the Rajput style of warfare.
Which leads us back to that big question, right? Knowing Ghori's ambition, his drive to conquer, was Prithviraj's decision to let him retreat. Was it a mistake?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
Did he give Ghori a second chance? A chance to regroup, to, learn from his mistakes, and then plot his revenge.
Because we know Ghori's coming back.
Oh, yeah. This isn't over.
So even in victory, there's this sense of, impending doom, the calm before the storm.
That's a great way to put it. And the question of Prithviraj's mercy, was it a noble act or a huge blunder? It becomes even more, intriguing. We have to remember this was just the beginning. Act 1, you could say.
Right, setting the stage.
Exactly. The First Battle of Tarain, it was a turning point, yeah, but not in the way you might think at first. It sets up this rematch, a rematch that's going to have huge, huge consequences for the future of India. So we're left with this image of Ghori, slinking back to Ghazni, defeated.
Yeah.
But, not broken.
Not giving up.
No, not at all. The sources, they really highlight his ambition, his desire to conquer. This wasn't just a minor set.
A bruise to his ego.
Oh, yeah. It was like a full-on assault to his pride. And that's really what gives the First Battle of Tarain this whole new meaning.
Yeah, it becomes about more than just, who won that one fight.
Right. It's about the long game. Ghori, he wasn't just, a military leader. This defeat, it challenged his whole identity, everything he'd built himself up to be.
So even though Prithviraj won that battle, maybe he actually, accidentally set in motion, the chain of events that leads to his downfall.
It's a really, really interesting thought, isn't it? Now, the sources, they don't come right out and say that letting Ghori go was a mistake. But they do kind of hint at it,
Yeah.
Ghori, by retreating, he got this this breathing room, time to, think about what went wrong, and most importantly, plan his revenge.
Like that old saying, right? Sometimes you win the battle but lose the war.
Exactly. And in this case, the war, it wasn't just about, who controlled some land. It was about who would shape the future of India.
Yeah.
Ghori's ambition, after this defeat, it just intensified. And that, it eventually leads to the Delhi Sultanate, which is a pretty big deal. It really changed the whole political landscape of India.
So the First Battle of Tarain, even though the Rajputs won, it might have actually paved the way for, centuries of Islamic rule in India.
It's one way to look at it, yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it, how one event, one decision can have these, like, huge ripple effects through history.
It really is. Makes you think about all the what ifs, right?
Oh, absolutely. Historians love a good what if. What if Prithviraj had, chased Ghori down, finished him off? What if he hadn't shown him, you know, any mercy? Would India be different today? We'll never know.
But that's what's so cool about history, right? You get to kind of like look back and consider all these possibilities. Even if we can't change the past, we can, learn from it. And the First Battle of Tarain reminds us that even the biggest victories can come with consequences. You never know what's going to happen down the line.
Well said. I think we've really explored this battle, haven't we? The motivations, the key players, the aftermath. It wasn't just armies clashing. It was uh, ideologies, ambitions. Like we said, the future of India was hanging in the balance.
Yeah. We did a pretty good job with this deep dive, I think.
I'd say so.
We covered a lot of ground, right? We had these different sources. We got into like what motivated these guys, and then all the fallout from that first battle.
And I think, most importantly, we showed the history is complicated. Things aren't always black and white. What seems simple on the surface can have all these, unintended consequences.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so interesting. It's not just about memorizing names and dates. It's about understanding how everything's connected.
Right. It really is. Well, I think it's about time we wrapped up this deep dive, but I'd encourage everyone, keep exploring this part of history. There's so much to discover. Read the sources, ask those what-if questions, and see where it takes you.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for coming along with us on this little trip back in time. And until next time, keep on exploring.